Magic Johnson is basically Ben Simmons. All right, guys, what's up? Welcome to Basketball Rejects. Today we got a special guest, Matthew Callahan. I mean, I probably should have done Matthew before Matt, just because that's how that's how nicknames go. But he's going to be with us for this podcast and Free Flow right after this.
Yes, sir.
So we're starting with the basketball, and I wanted to start with this because I know how you guys feel about a certain Philadelphia 76er. And this take is going to be wild, and it's arguably the most disrespectful take I've ever had. But you'll understand it. And so the take is that Steph Curry is better than Magic Johnson. And you might be like, oh my God, that's crazy. Because Magic Johnson, top 5 all time or top 10, like wherever you have him, like he's probably in your top 10. And Steph Curry is like typically like kind of right outside the top 10. But hear me out. Magic Johnson is basically Ben Simmons. That he's not that much better than Ben Simmons. Thoughts?
I think it depends what you're talking about. I think that Magic Johnson is better than Steph at being a actual point guard, like a true point. If we're gonna label it as that, a true point.
Mm-hmm.
And if I needed a true point, I would want Magic. If I wanted a point guard that could play make, I would want Steph.
Matt, what about you? What do you think about?
Wait, are you comparing him to Ben Simmons or Steph Curry? Because I thought we were comparing him to Ben Simmons.
So I'm comparing Magic and Ben together. But
So you think they're on the same level?
I think they're slightly different.
So I guess I'll explain it a little bit better real quick. Is that I think it's clear cut Steph is better than Ben. Like there's no argument to be made there. 100%. But I think Magic and Ben Simmons are so similar that because they're so similar and Steph is better than Ben, that the argument can be made that Steph is better than Magic.
No. I actually vehemently disagree. I think Magic Johnson is fucking light years above Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons, one, you have to remember, this year his All-Star was a joke. Trae Young should have got in over him. He was not.
He's been an All-Star like 2 or 3 times.
Yes, but fan base matters in All-Star games. That's the issue with counting All-Star votes.
He's been voted in by the coaches.
Yeah, but counting All-Star votes is also counting your personality and your likeness. It's not always just counting how good you are at basketball. It's counting, like, Dirk literally pulled himself from his All-Star game because he said, I don't deserve to be here. I just have a fan base. Same with Kobe on his last year. He got voted in as an All-Star, and he didn't take it because he said, I'm not playing as well as an All-Star. That's Ben Simmons. He has good likeness. People enjoy him. They think he's cool, and he has a big fan base. So he's voted in. Trae Young's 10 times better than Ben Simmons since he came into the league. Ben Simmons, also, Magic Johnson has never lost. Magic Johnson isn't the reason the Lakers lose and not win. Ben Simmons is the reason they've been out of the playoffs. And Magic Johnson also has won them championships with, yes, and we can say, yeah, he had stacked teams. So did Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons signed an Eastern Conference All-Star team to his lineup, and he couldn't even make a finals. So, no, Ben Simmons is not even close to sniffing Magic Johnson's shoes. And Steph Curry, I don't think is light years above Magic. I think Magic is better than him at being a true point, and Steph Curry is better than him at shooting threes and making plays with the ball.
Wait, sorry, what was the last part? You think Steph is better than Magic?
I think Magic is better at Steph. If I wanted a true point guard, I'm getting Magic over him every time. If I needed someone that I was like, I need you to be able to
like run an offense.
Put up an ass ton of points, and my team is not as good around you, I want Steph. If my team's loaded, I want Magic because I don't need Steph if my team's loaded.
All right, Matt, what are your thoughts on the whole thing?
I think the whole like All-Star thing kind of does come into play where I get his point. I mean, Kobe did take his last one, but
yeah,
he's similar to I'd say like a Carmelo Anthony in his down years, like not necessarily down years because he was still
Kobe is?
producing. Carmelo compared to like Ben Simmons earning
Okay, yeah.
their All-Star appearances because Carmelo somewhat had semi down years, but statistically was okay.
Yeah.
But you could argue he might have not been deserving of that like role, I guess. But I'd say Ben Simmons is a better defender at guarding any position than Magic Johnson is, just because I think he's more athletic. But
Hmm.
as a point guard, I don't think he's that much better at all, like really close to Magic, because Magic could still at least somewhat make shots. He was making plays. He
Free
was finding
throws.
people open. Yeah, he wasn't shooting worse than Shaquille O'Neal and Lonzo Ball before Lonzo had a straight shot. Like, this man was afraid to dunk the ball in the playoffs wide open. He passed open a dunk because he was so afraid to go to the line. And I
Yeah.
don't think that's in any sort of piece or bone of Magic Johnson's body or Steph Curry's body where they would ever shy away from that.
Yeah.
It's where I don't think it's that. But the Steph and Magic Johnson argument, I think, is a little bit different. Like Tyler said, what type of team do you have? I feel like is the big. I think Steph changed the game more so
Yeah.
than Magic
Yeah.
did, just because you
100%.
see everybody now is shooting threes like Steph. I want to shoot like Steph. You see Steph hitting tunnel threes and ridiculous shots, and he's like doing his shimmy, doing his thing, which I think when it comes down to it in the end, people are going to put Magic above him, which I'd agree as of now,
It,
just because Magic has 5 rings. He did have good players, but I don't think he had near the team of Kevin Durant, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson,
yeah, I
and
think that's a
himself,
crazy
and
And-
team.
Boogie Cousins.
And so that would be like another point I'd have. I think the teams they both had were really good, not counting the Kevin Durant super team. I don't think if you put Magic on that team, he could be as effective as Steph on that team. But I
Yeah.
also don't think if you put Steph on that Lakers team, he would be as effective as Magic was on that team. So
I think they would be incrementally worse. Like Steph with Magic, I think would be incrementally worse, but I think Magic instead of Steph would be a dramatic drop off kind of thing.
I don't think it would be.
like
I
for
think
the
I think
for the
people.
respective teams.
I think people really, because we haven't seen Magic in a while, and I think also with Magic Johnson being the type of player Magic Johnson is,
Yeah.
what Steph Curry changed the game to where it was all small ball, all 3-pointers, all the time. But the second you put in a Magic Johnson there, you can't play small ball against Magic Johnson because he's going to go around you and he's going to get players really open. So I don't think it would be tremendously worse, just purely because I think, especially a player of his caliber, I think if required to have a disgusting 3-point shot, Magic Johnson is one of those players that could adjust his game to get that 3-point shot. Like he's not going to be like Ben Simmons, where he's practicing it for 4 years straight and he still won't ever take one. I think Magic Johnson would literally be like, I've practiced this for a summer, I can shoot, and he will start shooting. So I honestly think, and I think there are very few players like same thing with LeBron. Like people say LeBron can't play in that era. I think if LeBron had to condition his body to body people, he would be
Oh, I
able to
don't.
do that.
Yeah.
I
I mean
think
that's its
physically
whole
he
own
can.
discussion.
Yeah.
I think he'd run
And
everybody
so
over.
I think like that whole argument, like where it's like, oh, will they be able to play? They couldn't shoot as well. I think you grab players like Michael Jordan or Magic Johnson or all these
So-
players that were elite levels. Those types of players don't really count for those conversations because I believe they're good enough.
They're
players.
gonna play in any era.
Yeah, they're good enough players to where if I'm Michael Jordan, if I'm Magic Johnson, I got to shoot threes. Okay, I'll shoot some threes. Like I will learn to shoot threes and get better at shooting threes.
I
Like
still
it's,
think Steph is tough enough to play in that era.
I
though.
don't think he is. I
But-
think he'd get body.
But the thing
slammed.
with that I feel like is when you're smaller and you're as quick and agile as he is that the more you kind of press up on somebody, it's almost easier to create a little bit of space. Like to get, because he only needs a fraction of space, and to be able, like when you're pushing up on somebody, you use their body against them, and you're able to get a step back kind of thing, and all of a sudden you got 3 feet of space, and Steph's gonna let it fly and hit it 40% of the time.
But here's the thing. I think again, you put someone like Gary Payton on Steph. I
Yeah.
don't think Steph's strong enough to handle that.
I think just that. I think that era is a little bit dirtier. I mean, you see when the Celtics and Lakers play, and Kevin McHale just comes and clobbers Kurt Rambis, and you would this day and age, he would have been suspended and a fine, and who
Mhm.
knows, he may never play in the NBA again because he just
I mean, that
literally
Kareem,
clotheslined him.
that Kareem punch in the back of the head that he
Yeah.
did, like that dude is out of the league forever. Like,
Versus
Yeah.
like now, I feel like Steph could get room and do those type of things, but I don't think he'd get past someone walking underneath him by
yeah,
accident
like
kind
the
of
quote
thing.
Bruce Bowens of the
Yeah,
league,
like
you
just
know?
kind of doing those dirty things that would hinder him. Not saying he couldn't do it, because I think his shooting ability he could do that anytime.
Yeah.
Because I mean, there's like guys like Larry Bird who are amazing shooters before Steph Curry, but it'd be interesting.
So, one more thing I want to add to this, just to close out this discussion, is do you think how much worse do you think that Lakers team would be if they had Ben Simmons instead of Magic Johnson?
A lot worse.
I agree, because Magic's made big shots. Like we've
Yeah.
seen him make the famous sky hook that he took from Kareem in the finals against Celtics. Ben Simmons hasn't made any big shot. He's a terrified of the ball in the
Yeah.
fourth quarter. They can't
It-
play him in the fourth quarter.
I don't think
At
you can.
all.
I don't think with that. Yeah, exactly. I don't think you can compare someone where your team has to yank you to someone who goes, Magic, we need to give you the ball, and we
I
need
feel-
you to make a play. Ben Simmons is not that player, and I get his hype. Like I was hype on him, but at this point, he's 25 now, 26. He's been in the league 5 years. Everyone holding out hope, like, well, he will be that. No, he won't. He's not going to be that player ever. I think at best he'll be an all-star player, and he'll improve like
pretty
Alonzo. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think he'll
Like-
improve. I think
he's
he'll
still a
improve-
solid player.
Yeah, like I think at best he could be solid, but is he ever going to reach that superstar Magic potential that everyone was trying to force? No, I don't think he'll ever be that good. I don't think he's worked on his shot long enough. If he's not comfortable, it's like the Blake Griffin.
I,
effect.
we need to see it this year, otherwise, like everything goes out the window.
I
But
think Lonzo's made more strides than he has.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think Lonzo's improved 10 times more in less time than Ben Simmons.
yeah, and like I said to start that whole conversation, like it was clearly like a disrespectful take. Like I understand that it's like not what I believe, but it's just that like the similarity in the way that like Simmons and Magic played is like the biggest difference is that
Magic's good.
like Magic has the mentality. Like that's the
Yeah.
biggest difference. He has the winner's mentality, and he has that GOAT mentality that Simmons doesn't really have.
and I
I
think
feel
like
that lacks.
and I think
Yeah.
one other thing like people seem to forget whenever they argue Ben Simmons, like he just needs time, he just needs time. That dude had the weakest injury his rookie year, an injury that usually takes like 3 to 6 weeks to recover from. They showed him at the start of the season practicing with the team. He just sat out the year to keep working on his game. That dude had literally a year head start, and he was still didn't make any improvement from what we saw in college. He was literally the same guy. It was like, okay, yeah, he can drive, he can't shoot. He can play defense, he's athletic, but that's it. Like he can pass, but I mean, I honestly, who can't pass in the NBA? Like who truly is playing a point position, point forward, whatever, that actually can't pass? Where it's like they can't make passes.
Well, and that
Everyone
goes back
can.
to the Magic and Steph discussion of there's point guards are asked to do so much and so many are asked to do different things. Like a Kemba isn't supposed to be a playmaker and like get 10 assists a game. Like a Steph Curry and a Damian Lillard, they're not really expected to score 10 points a game or to assist 10 times a game. They're just there to score as many points as they can because they're their best offense.
Okay,
Like-
but here's an argument for that. I think Kemba's closer to, let's say, another GOAT scoring point guard, AI. I think Kemba is closer to AI than Ben is to Magic by far. I think Kemba is 10 times closer to AI than Ben is to Magic.
Maybe, but I mean, I think AI is so far down the list compared to Magic himself that
I think
Okay,
the
I
biggest
think-
thing with Ben is one, him and Magic are very tall point guards.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's your first immediate thing. And two, they're both good passers. Like they have that type of being able to make a play ability, but then obviously once you like break it down even further is where the discrepancies get larger, in my opinion.
Yeah. Like as you get to the more minute details, like the differences in those details get larger. I see what you mean.
Yeah.
All right. So let's move to our tier list of current NBA talent, because I know this one's interesting. I think what we should do is honestly just give like the hot takes from the tier list, because I feel like a lot of us would be pretty similar in some of these players.
So I know you guys have the list of like the larger NBA.
Yeah.
Like a larger list than I do. So I'll do the top 10. You guys tell me what you disagree with. And then you guys do your list, and we'll go with that. Because I think you guys are going to agree on a lot of this.
Is yours in chronological order?
It's a tier list, but it's like just top 10 players. Like you'll understand.
NBA?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, for example, for my first tier of the top 3 players in the league, I got LeBron James, Kevin Durant, and Steph Curry. Like, I think those guys are a step above everybody. And I don't think the gap is huge. That's why I have a tier list specifically for the top 10. Because I think that, like, the gap between, like, these guys and then my next tier is, like, pretty close. So, for my next tier, which is, like, 4 through 6, is Giannis, Kawhi, and I have Luka there. Like, and pretty much any of them I think are interchangeable. Yeah. And then on 3, my next spot is 7, 8, 9. I have Embiid, Harden, and Jokic. And then to end off my tier list with tier 4, I have Damian Lillard and Anthony Davis.
Where's Kawhi?
Kawhi was in 2.
Yeah.
He was with Giannis and Luka.
And you don't have Kyrie?
He might be on tier 4 with AD and Dame. But it's mostly like top 10 stuff, and I think he's right outside the top 10.
I would agree with everything, except I'd probably interchange Kyrie with Joel Embiid.
Have Embiid in like tier 4 with the Dame and AD.
Yeah, I think Joel Embiid's really good. I think his issue, like Anthony Davis, is inconsistencies and injuries, and I think that's when you're talking about like best players in the league. For me at least, it factors into it. If you can't play, that's why AD's. I think he's not even in my top 15, top 20, possibly.
He's got to be in like top 20.
I'd have him probably.
I think he's in. Yeah, I think he's top 20. Yeah. He's rounding out the top 20. But for me, like all the other players I have on this list, besides LaMelo as a troll, are consistently playing well, and yeah, like I think that's my only issue with Joel Embiid. I'd probably put him in my.
But technically, Kyrie's had some injury problems the past couple of years too.
Yeah,
or just not wanting to play and wanting to sage.
Yeah, he some of it's him being a nutcase, but when the dude plays, it's not like you look at Kyrie and it's like, okay, he's playing all right tonight. Like,
that's kind of how Embiid is. Like
I feel like Embiid's more of he will take over a game and you can't stop him because I feel like there's such a gap at good centers in the league right now.
Yeah,
that you can't guard him.
I feel like sometimes I feel like I've seen a few games. I've seen a few games, and this could be just because Ben Simmons is so fucking bad. But where I'm like, even though he's playing well, I'm like, I mean, he's not doing that much. But again, it could be because Ben Simmons is playing so horribly that like he's just in a hole he can't dig himself out of. So
I mean, they go from like a 500 team to like a 7,500 team when Embiid is playing.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Like, I might be judging him.
I thought Embiid was MVP until he got hurt.
I might be judging him harshly purely because Ben Simmons, like, because it's hard to like separate the two. Because it's like, I feel like it'll be better once they get rid of Ben Simmons and get a different point guard. Because then you can kind of be like, okay, this is what Embiid can do. Because for me, I kind of rope them together because they rope themselves together. And it's like. Because I feel like regardless, when Ben Simmons is playing horribly, Joel Embiid can't make up for that. And so I might be judging him harshly based on that. Like, because Ben Simmons just puts him in such a hole, he can't do anything. Which, I agree, if your point guard can't play, it's probably pretty hard to get some get good wins out against tough competition.
What about you, Matt? What's your tier list looking like?
Mine, with your top 10, I honestly agree with pretty much all of it.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I feel like those are. I mean, you could like shuffle a couple guys around, but I feel like those guys were right there, and I feel like some of the guys that might have missed out, like kind of like would be. I wasn't even the biggest Paul George fan, but how he played those
Yeah,
past
this
playoffs
yeah.
year.
and this year, he's a guy that's like right on that edge. And then you got like Donovan Mitchell right on that edge, and D Book is questionable for me to be there,
Yeah.
but
Like he
I
did
feel
it
like
through the
he's
first
another
three
guy.
rounds, but
Yeah.
then the
Yeah.
finals, and like I said, like all for mine, it's like it was pretty much strictly top 10. But then like AD and Dame, I can't put at that 10 slot. Whereas, like to go to the guys that you guys said, like Kyrie and George, like they're both like bubble top 10 players.
Yeah.
But I feel like these are the guys that
Yeah,
I would
I
just
think
have
if
in my
Paul George
top
plays
10.
like he did this year, like
Yeah,
again, it's he'd solidify being in my top 10 because if
Yeah.
he plays like that, like he outshined
He's-
Kawhi this year,
yeah.
and everyone was like he's the problem, and then this year Kawhi got injured, and it's like Paul George can't do enough, like he can't do it all, like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
team's just that bad. The dude's dropping 40, 30, and 15, like the dude's just going crazy. There's not much he can really do about it.
So then where for you guys, where's the difference between like so there is kind of that like three tiers list where you have like the superstars or like I don't even want to say superstar. You have the top 5 to 10 players and then you have kind of like superstars at least below the top 5 that
Yeah.
like the LeBron Durants and Steph are like mega stars.
Yeah.
But then below there you kind of get into the superstar list and below that is like the borderline all-stars, like the all-star borderline all-stars.
Mm-hmm.
Like for you guys, where do you kind of like where's the switch? Like who are those like kind
So,
of fringe guys for you?
For mine was that's what I did. Mine's not in any order at all. I just grabbed him. Like you guys
Yeah.
saw, I grabbed him and dragged him. The only one I have like kind of trolley is Mello in the S plus tier. But that's like my Mello, Steph, Greek, Kawhi, KD, Kyrie, LaMelo, Luca, and Russ. Just because Russ just it's hard for me to downplay the 2K numbers that dude put up.
Yeah, I mean,
and
he's literally a
so
my career player.
so yeah, on the bubble of mine would be like a Russ from that like top tier, like
To like the superstar level.
yeah, to like the level where I have like Dame, Booker, Morant, Jimmy, Jokic, Paul George,
Why you
Middleton
got
in the
Jimmy that
playoffs.
high?
I have Jimmy that high because I think this year the dude was just exhausted. Like I think this year is an easy year to pick on him.
It's almost like the LeBron thing, where like both of them underperformed like kind of dramatically this year
Yeah,
because
I think
they both had such limited time off.
yeah. And so my thing with Jimmy is I think, yeah, it's really easy. I could drop him a tier and it's easy to pick on him because, I mean, dude, everyone knows the like picture of him like bending over the hoop, like literally huffing and puffing. Where I think, yeah, like I think Jimmy Butler is that good when he is like last year's he was a top 10 player in the NBA or
He was, like,
the year
top
before.
5. He was like arguably
Yeah.
better than Kawhi kind of thing.
Yeah, the dude was going crazy. And so I'm just not fully harshly judging Jimmy off of this year because I think that would just be a little bit unfair. And then I have like Trae Young. So like my bubble, I would say if like the best and then the worst players out of these tiers would be like I would say like the Russ and like the Kyrie would probably be the fringe players of like the top tier. And
Yeah.
then of the next tier would be like a Dame, Booker, Trae Young, Paul George. That would kind of be my fringe. And then the other fringe is like 80, CP3, James Harden. I've never been hot on James Harden. I really and Donovan Mitchell. I think they're all in the same tier. CP3, I think he just can't win. And that's kind of where this tier comes is they need another superstar to make noise.
Ooh, that's a good one that
Like-
we'll get into in a minute.
Yeah, I think that's why Chris Paul's here. I think talent-wise, yes, he's talent-wise he's a top 5 talent. But again, that upper tier besides LaMelo as a troll, all of them I think could make noise without someone else being on their team. Like Russ, he had the Wizards who were awful, and this dude is putting up video game numbers like absurd. Devin Booker, even before Chris Paul got there, when they were in the bubble, went 10-0. He's going off. Jimmy Butler grabbed a bunch of young kids and yanked them to the finals. Like, I think all these dudes are kind of those players like Trae Young with the Hawks. No one saw the Hawks making it that far. And so I think this tier, like AD, Donovan Mitchell, Bradley Beal, Chris Paul, those kind of, and James Harden too. I think they need another superstar or they're not going to be able to make noise. Like when Chris Paul has someone to compliment, he's one of those players where it's like, holy shit, Chris Paul's elite. But when he doesn't, it's like, besides the Thunder year, when he doesn't, it's just kind of like, yeah, Chris Paul's still phenomenal, but they're not going to do anything. And then like below that would be like CJ McCollum, Jamal Murray, just because he didn't play this year. So could be disrespectful, but.
So you'd put Bradley Beal down there when he was the second leading scorer, slightly behind Steph in the NBA this year?
Yes, I put Bradley Beal down there because I think Bradley Beal is one of those players that can be very fluid, but he's super inconsistent. Like, I mean, this year,
31 points a game.
No, this year he was very consistent. But beforehand, you have to remember when John Wall was there, it was like, get Bradley. People were literally screaming for his head, like, get him out. He sucks. He's at best a solid guard. Like, people were losing it. They were like, get John Wall some help. Get rid of Bradley Beal. Stop paying this man. But then this year with Russ, and I'm sure Russ obviously complimented him really well, is like he popped off. So I think it'll be interesting to see what he does next year. And I think he's one of those fluid players again.
But the Wizards also just suck. So like,
yeah,
he has to score, and if he doesn't score, but like what was their record when he had like 50 plus? They were like
0-9, right? Yeah, they like didn't do anything. Which I'm not blaming on him, which is why he's there. But again, I think he really does need he needs help, and he's not going to be like a.
To be fair, everybody does, even the top players in the league right now. Like, but no one's counting on their own.
Yeah, but I think Bradley Beal would need more help than most of the players above him. The only reason Chris Middleton's there is because he went absolutely mental in the playoffs. That's literally it.
But besides, it's just that I think Bradley Beal's just in a way lesser system compared to some of these guys, because some of them don't have you could argue like Kyrie, he's in a great team with Kevin Durant and James Harden, 2 scorers, so like he's gonna be a premier guy. Versus like, what if you swapped him out and put in Bradley Beal? Because like their team is so bad.
Yeah, but you have to remember, Kyrie played on the LeBronless Cavs with Dion Waiters. They were horrid, and that dude was consistently like, holy shit, this dude is like, people were like, this is the next Kobe Bryant. Like, they were going insane about Kyrie. Bradley Beal just had this year.
Play style.
Well, yeah, he's gotten older for sure. And so I think
Bradley's gone like up and down, but right now I feel like he's on a higher up than some of those guys are right now.
Yeah, and I think I want to see him go higher before I put him like.
So do you have him below Donovan Mitchell or above?
I think on this I would probably put Bradley above Donovan Mitchell. He would probably be like literally on the fringe. He would be there with CP3, AD, and him. And James.
One comparison for both of you guys, or just like where do you rank Ja Morant compared to like a Donovan Mitchell and some of those guys?
I think Ja Morant
and Trae Young.
Like Ja Morant compared to Trae Young?
Just like on a list of like,
okay,
you're gonna have Ja, Donovan, and like Trae.
Like start one, bench one, cut one.
Exactly.
I would start. I love Ja's play style, so I'd start Ja, bench Trae, cut Donovan Mitchell.
And so a couple of weeks ago, and it might have even been last week, but we were talking about guys that are winners, that they just have the quality that wins, and I think Ja has that, and I think he might have even been one of the names that we mentioned. Like, yeah, he's not made the playoffs yet, but the Grizzlies are not a good team. Like
and he's also in the West,
and he's not even putting up crazy numbers. It's something like 19-8 maybe kind of thing. And so like Trae Young gets you points, and I mean what he did in the playoffs was crazy. And I don't necessarily think it's a fluke, but I'm not a full believer of that.
I could see that, yeah.
And so, like, it's almost like the Jimmy Butler situation for me, where I'm just like, because for me, being like a huge Luka fan, it's Luka and Trae Young, and like everyone's like, oh, well, Trae got further in the playoffs, and it's like, I mean,
I think Luka's still like 3 steps
I
ahead
think,
of him.
yeah, I think
Yeah, it's
Luka's,
the next face
yeah,
of the league.
I think Luka's the best out of the young point guards. I just personally, I really am high on Ja Morant.
yeah,
I think
like,
I wouldn't ever be mad if you interchange them. Like if someone's like, well, I think Trey's better, I'd be like, okay.
Yeah,
And
like,
if someone's like, I think Ja's better, but okay. Like it's one of those things.
And it's also like their team composition, because I
Mm-hmm.
think my order's the same. I would start Ja, bench Trae,
Mm-hmm.
cut Mitchell, because I do think if you were to put like it's hard because you can't necessarily interchange them just because Mitchell's a shooting guard.
Yeah.
And like how would like a Ja Morant and a Mike Conley work for the Jazz? But at the same time, like you give Ja Morant like Gobert, you give him like Ingles, you give him those options, and I think he makes that team a winner. And if you put Donovan Mitchell on the Grizzlies, I almost think that he turns into a Bradley Beal.
Yeah,
Like-
I'd agree with that.
And like I like Mitchell, but I mean he's like 6'3", so he's pretty small for his position.
I think what
And-
Shaq said kind of hit the nail on the head. The kid's great, but he's not elite. He's not like that echelon of players where he's like near that level yet. I think he's really good, and I would love to have him on a team. But if I had to pick between him and like most of the guys above, pretty much any of the guys above him that aren't 40 years old, I would probably pick them.
I think this year for them was like their number 1 in the West coming
Yeah.
in. They had everything lined up. This has got to be your best shot.
What do
And
you
Yeah.
think, Matt? How would you order?
Yeah,
Would you order it like
I'd-
us or?
I'd probably do it the exact same.
Mhm.
I mean,
I just
it'd
think
be
Jaw's
tougher on
so
the-
good.
I think it's tougher for the Trae Young
Yeah.
versus
Yeah.
Donovan
Ja.
Mitchell
Oh.
on that, because
Oh, really?
I think Jaw's better than Trae, because Trae's. I feel like Jaw's so much better of a playmaker. Like, look at the
Mhm.
team that they signed in Atlanta. They got some good dudes.
Yeah,
on that
they have
team
good
They got
team.
shooters for
versus
days, too.
like, I mean, they didn't. It's not like they had Jared Jackson and Dylan Brooks were pretty good in Memphis,
was
but
it-
Jaw just took that team that was like kind of hanging around the 9 to 10 spot, and then like I feel like that they're young as well. The Hawks, I think the Hawks might have a better trajectory because they're in the East and it's easier,
Mhm.
but
yeah,
I think Jaws is so much more of a dominate, like in your face player because
Yeah.
he'll jam on you. He's not as good of a shooter,
mean,
obviously,
the
but
way
like
he tries
this-
to dunk on people, that was so
yeah,
respectable
it-
that he just.
I mean,
is like,
it,
I'm gonna
it
end
brings
you.
energy to your team like crazy. I
Mhm.
mean, they both do, but
And
I
then
just
the,
feel
and
like-
Jaren Jackson didn't even play last year. Basically, he played
Nope.
yeah,
11
he was
games.
hurt. So I mean, they lost Valanciunas, so we'll see how that goes. But
I'd
that's a
agree.
I think their young core to me is more dog-like, and
Yeah.
they will
remind me of the
grind you
Heat.
out.
I,
Yeah.
They remind me of the
they're-
Heat from when they played the Lakers. I feel like when
There's still
I feel
that
like when they
Memphis
go to the
grit and grind.
finals, they'll be scary. I feel like they'll be very scary. I feel like if that's the team, like if they get hot and they get some hype behind them, I feel like they would blow out Trae Young and the Hawks. If that team
mean-
like got some bite behind them.
I just hope they don't turn into those like mid 2000s like grit and grind Grizzlies, because I'm fearful that that's their roof. Because
Mhm.
like I was a believer when it was 2014 or 15 when the Grizzlies were going up against the Spurs and they had Mike Conley, like Tony Allen, Rudy Gay,
Zach.
Marc Gasol, and Zach Randolph, and they were all like in their peak at like the same time and everything, but they just couldn't get past that Spurs team. But I honestly think like if they get past that Spurs team, there's a good chance that team wins the title. Like right before the Warriors were coming in, and like right when like the Heat were like they would have been a good matchup for the Heat just because of their defense. Like their defense was so good, and I think Ja is like better than Conley. Like even
Yes.
now at 21 versus like Conley at any time, and
Yeah.
is like a better leader and more equipped to lead them. But at the same time, like I worry that like it might just be an organization thing too, that they like just can't figure out how to get over that second or like that semi-conference or that semi-finals or that Western Conference Finals hump.
And like, here's my thing. Like, here's another thing why I put Ja in a tier above Chris Paul. Tell me Ja on that Suns team instead of Chris Paul would not be fucking insanely scary to play up against.
I feel like Chris Paul though brought the veteran aspect that those young
Mhm.
kids needed, like with that team. I don't think it necessarily changed. I think athletically, sure, but like I think where they went wrong in that finals was just the mistakes down the stretch that he made himself, but you saw like was like, wow, Ayton and Booker are playing so much better than like people thought in their first playoff run. And then you started to see it unwind in those key
Yeah.
moments where it didn't for the Bucks. Like Giannis
Yeah.
was just making those plays,
because
and
they
And you-
have a little
Chris
bit of
Middleton
experience.
was
And you
so they
saw
had somewhat.
CP3 and you saw CP3 doing what CP3 does, which is if that
down
dude
the stretch when
if
he
that
was
dude
turning
gets
it
the
over.
ball, yeah, if that dude gets the ball in under 2 minutes, you're fucked. Like, he is king turnover, or he'll go and try and take a stupid shot and like flop the living fuck out of it to try and get a call because he knows it's a bad shot, won't get the call, and the game's over. Like, the dude has done that, and that's why he's in my A tier with Beal, Mitchell, AD. So I think talent wise, yes, he's insane. But that dude does not know how to win, like at all. I think this year, I think we talked about it on our first podcast, Matt. We were saying that this was the year for the Suns to win. Like,
Yeah, this was
maybe
their
next year,
opportunity.
but
I
I
don't
don't
think
think
so
next
next year.
year they're going to be this
Not with the way
dangerous.
like the Lakers and Nets both somehow got better with zero fucking money.
Yeah.
But
I would have thought the Clippers would have been more of a better chance with Kawhi coming back, but some of the moves they've made this offseason, I'm kind of like, I don't know.
I think they're giving up.
I think him and PG, they'll definitely. I
They're
don't
gonna
want to count them
compete.
out. I think they'll for sure compete, but also then you got a healthy Murray coming back for the Nuggets, so they also don't have Jeremy Grant. I think the East has a better potential in like 5 to 7 years when all these superstars in the West, like LeBron and Dame and Chris Paul and all them, kind of fade out of the league and retire, just
Mhm.
because the young talent in the East is really good.
You know who I thought the Nuggets should have gotten that I'm really bummed they didn't? And Matt and I have talked about this before, Mitchell. I'm really bummed the Nuggets didn't let Jamal Murray go, like try and sign and trade him for Lonzo. Because I honestly think that Lonzo would make that Nuggets team so good. I think they would be so much better with Lonzo than they are with Jamal Murray.
Well, so talking about the Nuggets is I'm super high on MPJ, Michael Porter Jr.
Me too.
And I think if he develops the way he can, like that he's capable of, that he can take that team over the top as they are. That if he ends up being so good that Jamal Murray becomes that third guy on the team, like I think that Jamal Murray's injury is potentially the best thing to happen to that team because it's allowed Michael Porter Jr. to like really step up, take a role, and like he kind of tapered off in the playoffs, but I mean he played 30 games basically as like the second option, and for 25 of them he was putting up fucking Kevin Durant numbers. Like the dude is insane. If he gets the opportunity, he's gotten better on defense, and so I still think Denver is in a solid position to win, but it kind of depends on how much MPJ improves this year.
I agree. I think they need him to, because I think losing Jeremy Grant was huge for that team this
I mean,
season.
Aaron Gordon's a good pickup though. That kind of fits in.
He was, but he too kind of they both just faded off in the playoffs. Like, I mean, they got a year now, like, so maybe next season they regroup and they come more together with the whole unit. So I think they're definitely one of the scary teams in the West as well.
So if we're talking about tapering off, what do you guys think of the Knicks? Because Julius Randle fell off a fucking cliff in the playoffs. You literally shove this dude off of Mount Everest, and I honestly think his stats are steeper than that. Fall off.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's that the Hawks figured out his game and how to stop him. I think it's more that he stopped himself. And from what I've heard about like New York residents and New York Knicks fans is that they're still on board with Julius Randle, which is good because a lot of like Philly and New York are two of the harshest teams to play for, where if you don't perform, they'll take you out real quick and like basically boo you out of a city. But they still seem to absolutely love Randle just because of what he did throughout the whole regular season. And I think he's fully capable of continuing to play really well. Like I've always believed that he's a third all NBA team level player. And if he's that player, if they got a couple good pieces around him, if RJ improves a bit, like they still have Mitchell Robinson, like they have a solid core. And the problem is that I think the gap between a team like that and the Nets is just so fucking big.
Yeah, I agree.
One comparison, last one I have is question for both of you guys. If you're comparing the Hawks core from this season compared to the Celtics with Tatum and Brown, who do you think's gonna come out on top?
Celtics. For me. I think
who's gonna guard up inside? They have no center for Capella.
I think so.
And who's gonna guard Trey?
The reason I think this is because as much as I hate the fucking Celtics, because I really do not like that team. I'm a Laker fan. But dude, I am so high on Jason Tatum. Like I think that dude is so fucking good at basketball. Like I don't know, man. Like, I think he's so good. And
I mean, they got Dennis Schroeder, too. You got to remember that.
Okay, so that's their weakness, is they have a point guard that shoots 0 for 13.
And they have no big man. Like, I figure, like, when you have, like, I see it as, like, pieces. You got a Tatum, you got Trae Young.
I thought you were talking about, like just core. Like, Tatum, Jaylen Brown versus, like, Trae and John Collins. You mean like starting five?
I think, I just saw like their core of like their team. Like I mean,
like for who you think is better for the future or like for this upcoming season?
Just like go like say like next 5 years.
I think the Hawks because I think the Celtics are going to go through a blow up.
So my thing is, I don't even think I'd agree with you guys. Like, I don't think the Celtics will last 5 years.
I think their window's already gone. I think they're just coasting at this point.
And so my issue is I think that core is going to change. Like I think the issues that you're talking about are the issues that they're talking about, and they're going to have to ship Tatum or Brown, which I would hope they had the brain to ship Jaylen Brown instead, to try and get a semi-decent big man, a 3-and-D role player, and if Dennis Schroeder plays decently, keep him.
Right. Hypothetical trade. You could do Brown. I don't know who has him, but just say you could do this. You trade Brown for Vucevic, and then you snag Robert Covington. Does that make...
I think that would make the Celtics core 10 times better than the Hawks.
I don't think they'd be able to get Vucevic from Chicago for cheap. Just Brown. I think Brown's plays decline. Like I think you're either gonna blow it all up or you're gonna try to give everything you can into Jason Tatum and getting him guys.
I feel like there's
all your picks and everything. So I don't think anyone's really gonna sign there.
I don't think you would. I don't think they'll let go of Jason Tatum.
Yeah, like
I think he'd have to want to leave.
And they try to get other pieces around Tatum and hope that Tatum doesn't leave when his next contract's up.
I think the only way Tatum leaves is saying I want to leave. I don't think he leaves by them saying, all right, we need to rebuild, we're trading, because this was their rebuild. Like these players are still young. That's what's scary is this was their rebuild. This was the team that they farmed draft picks for years. I also think part of their issue was they didn't have good coaching. I don't think Brad Stevens is that good of a coach. I never thought he was that
from Doc Rivers, but
I think they missed out on some key trades they could have done that could have set up this team. Like say when they were doing that James Harden trade, if they were able to snag Jared Allen, and then
Yeah.
say you were able to ship Brown and some picks and get a Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, I feel like that if you
Like a
did some moves
Shea,
like that,
Tatum, and
yeah, that
Allen
would
could be
be
pretty nasty.
yeah, you'd have a young team and a very good team compared to like where like
I mean, I
I
feel
think they got
like
rid of Tice and I don't even know, didn't they retake Al Horford back or something?
yeah. I mean, they've got money to move. The Cavs are the fucking perfect destination for trying to get a center because they have every center in the fucking league.
Yep.
Yeah,
Like,
I think if you could get someone like Jared Allen on the Celtics, that team would be fucking crazy.
yeah, I mean, honestly, it might just take Jared out. Like, you trade an Evan Fournier and
Evan
an
Fournier's
Al
on the Knicks
Horford.
now.
Oh yeah, that's right. I was thinking he was
Get
going to
rid of
Boston.
Marcus Smart's contract. They just signed that.
I
Yeah.
feel like he's their
$70 million.
Draymond. I feel like he's their Draymond though. I feel like if they lose him, that team loses their personality, and I think they
I don't
Okay,
lose.
you
think
could
they
do-
have one at this point. They just.
But
keep
I
losing.
honestly, I think they're significantly worse. So, okay, here would be a question for you guys. Do you think they'd be better off keep having Tatum, Brown, and then whoever they trade Marcus Smart for, or Tatum, Smart, and whoever they trade Jaylen Brown for? Like, say Jared Allen, either way. Let's say Tatum, Brown, Jared Allen, Tatum, Smart, Jared Allen. What do you think would help their team play better? What do you guys think?
Well, I don't think. I mean, trade. I mean, in a rig
In
trade
a hypothetical,
scenario,
hypothetical world, that's their core
well,
three.
obviously you'd get rid of Smart because he's a lesser player than Brown, but I don't think that would necessarily work.
Well, like I think on paper, you trade Marcus Smart, but I think kind of in actuality you trade Brown.
Yep, that's where I'm
Like-
at. I think Marcus Smart is their Draymond.
Like
I just see it as if he's that important to them, then what is Jason Tatum doing wrong if he's not that guy? Why can't your best player fill that gap?
I just not everybody does. Like we don't hear much about like for as big of a market as Boston is, we really don't hear much about like any other players and stuff. But I mean, Steph Curry isn't that guy. Like, and he's top 15 player ever.
Yeah.
And, like he's just not the kind of leader that Draymond is.
Mhm.
Like it's not necessarily a bad thing, but and again, like if you were doing a straight up trade, if you were like, oh, I can trade either Brown or Smart for Jared Allen straight up, like even if I believe in Marcus Smart being like the quote better option, like I'm still going with the better option on paper, and I'm keeping Brown. Like
Yeah, I think it's hard because I don't know. I don't pay attention to the Celtics because again, I despise them. I'm glad they're bad. But it would be really hard without me paying attention and seeing. Like, I feel like you'd have to see, like, what does Jaylen Brown bring to the team? Is it something other than talent? Because if it is, like, sorry, go ahead.
I feel like he's a better scorer, and I think Marcus Smart's quote defense has a lot to do with flopping, which isn't necessarily what I need in my team because I don't think he offers too much scoring wise. Because I think if Jaylen Brown, you could turn him into a lockdown defender if he's not scoring is a difference.
yeah,
Compared
So
to
yeah, that's what I'm
Marcus
saying is I'd want to see is Jaylen Brown just bringing talent because as you said earlier, his talent's even taken a bit of a dip, not a dive, but a
I
dip.
think that whole team has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if that's just it, like if I walk into their practice facility or in a game and Marcus Smart's like trying to keep him in the game, he's the one, like he's their coach on the floor, like he's their Draymond, I would keep him. But if he's not and he really is just a lockdown defender and he's just loud, but he's not really like, like there's a difference between being loud and leading. Like if he's not really leading, then yeah, I would be obviously, yeah, you're a lesser player. You're not much of a leader. You're just a yeller. Sure, go away. But that's where my thing would be is because he comes off and the team seems to center around him. He seems like that leader for them, like that guy that they need and that is kind of like that Jimmy Butler where even if I'm not playing the best or like that Draymond, even if I'm not playing the best, I can still motivate these guys and push these guys to play good enough for us to win. And so that's what I'd have to see. Because if Jaylen, maybe who knows, maybe Jaylen Brown's the leader and Marcus Smart isn't. Like maybe they Jaylen Brown's the leader and Marcus Smart's getting the credit because he's louder. Like that's what's hard for me is like I'd have to see like the intangibles to really be like, but from the eye test, I would personally probably get rid of Jaylen Brown and keep Marcus Smart because I don't want to see that team with a head coaching change and a leadership change. At
Like
least
he's more
this
like
first
Pat
season.
Bev to me.
Yeah, he very well could be, and yeah, that's what I'm saying is like
it might take a change to see whether or not he's a Draymond or a Pat Bev kind of
yeah.
thing.
And so would I risk it? Probably not, because I still think the team's good. And so I wouldn't know if I'd risk that. But again, I don't know. He could be like a Pat Beverly where he's just fucking loud. Like he's a little chihuahua on the team that's just very loud, but he's not much of a leader. Or he could be Draymond-esque where he is the leader. You lose him, your whole everything you have crumbles. And because Jason Tatum might not be that leader, Jaylen Brown might not be that leader. Whoever they get, if it is Jared Allen, might not be that leader, and it just crumbles. But I mean, I think it just really depends on what risk you're willing to take. And I was hoping Kemba would be that leader when he came there, but
He like almost was,
wasn't.
but okay. So then, talking about championship teams, I want to get into this next one.
Yeah, let's get into the other ones so we're not on this podcast for 4 hours.
Yeah. Who do you think is the worst player that you can win a championship with as the number one guy?
As like number
Like,
one,
So like
I would say Greek.
You think he's like?
I think
you
he's
have
the
to have
worst
that,
player.
Like, top 5 talent to be able to, like that. You have to be that good.
I mean, you could arguably say it already happened with Anthony Davis.
Yeah, true.
But see, I don't think he.
But I don't think he was
was
number
the
one.
top.
I think
Yeah.
LeBron
I
would be
think
the
him
number
and
one.
LeBron switched off though, because AD would be on one game and off another. He did that.
Okay,
entire
we mean like
But-
like a true number one, like throughout the
Yeah.
season, that's their number one.
Because I'll say, like, I think going like this season for the Lakers specifically, Davis has to be their number one.
Yeah.
Like that, if LeBron is, I don't think they win. But as for just in general, like you build a team around one guy, and he's like the number one. Like you can be like Kevin Durant and still have like a James Harden, like something doable kind of thing. But like where you're the clear guy, like because like does a Harden and Kyrie win a championship with that team? I don't think so. But with Durant, they probably do.
Possibly Dame then.
You think it's like that guy, that
I
kind
feel
of
like
guy?
it could be like a Dame or a Joel Embiid.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I
You think
kind
you
of-
could what? But you think you could win a championship with Dame as your number one?
Possibly. I mean, he's never had like really good guys on his team. So like if you
Mhm.
have like a solid center, I mean, the year that they had it when it wasn't Vucevic, Valanciunas,
Nurkic.
yeah,
No.
Nurkic.
Nurkic.
Then they had Nurkic and he broke his leg. That
Yeah.
looked like potentially it could have been it.
Okay,
Like
I could
'cause
see it.
I think CJ. I mean, if you get the good CJ and you have a good big,
True.
that team is scary. And
Yeah.
he's still the clear number one guy. I
The-
mean, Joel, I think you had his chance, but if you swap out a Ben Simmons for a half decent scoring guard, that could also be a huge difference as well.
The
I mean, it
reason
could
I say
literally be
Greek,
like a Ben Simmons for a DeJounte Murray kind of trade could almost put them over the top.
the
Yeah, I just
the-
think they value Simmons way too high.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's a D tier player. The reason I say Greek is because, honest to God, I think you take away Chris Middleton's 40-point games and Drew Holiday playing at the ceiling he had when he was drafted. Like, people are like, this is how good he could be. Then you saw it finally this year. I think you take either of those away, they don't even get past the Nets. That's why I say Greek.
I mean, they
because-
were like 2 inches away from not even getting there.
yeah,
Yeah,
like
it
I
literally,
think
like,
I don't think they make it far at all.
Like,
That's
totally.
why I say Greek, because I don't even think they'd be in the finals if Chris Middleton didn't go out of his fucking mind and Drew Holiday didn't play at this ceiling he had when he was drafted by the Sixers, where they're like, oh my God, it could be AI again, but a
The
bigger
one reason
version.
why I disagree is because if you take Greek off of that team, they're probably one of the
The-
worst teams.
Yeah.
Like they're lucky to be 8.
Yeah, and I mean, we don't need.
I
to
think
dive
you
into
do that
this.
with a lot of players, though. I think you take Dame off of the Blazers, and they're lucky to be even sniffing playoffs. You know,
But that's different in the West compared to the East.
I mean,
An
I think
8th
if you,
seed in the West was like a 4 in the East.
I think you
Yeah,
take
but-
Trey Young off the Hawks. I think they're hot dog shit.
I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
I think
mean-
that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, we don't need to stay on it too long because pretty much the consensus seemingly is that the worst player you can have on your team to win a championship needs to be a top 10 player. That
Yeah,
if
I
you
agree.
do
Yeah.
not have, and almost
I can see it
like
being
top
Dame.
5, like
It's-
where you almost need to have 2 top 10s or a top 5.
Yeah,
And
I
like that's
agree.
kind of the reality. Like even if you have a top 10, you probably need another guy that's top 25. Like if you don't have 2 top 25 players, like you're probably not.
I mean,
gonna win.
dude, and I think and I think LeBron, KD, and Steph literally just prove like how they're often they are in the fucking finals, as to like why they're just the best number one options. Like you have the
Yeah.
years with Kawhi, which I think Kawhi is really good, but
I mean,
I would still put KD, LeBron, and Steph over Kawhi because I think
and,
at the end of the day, I think as good as Kawhi is, like he'd be my number 4. But I think I think what KD, LeBron, and Steph bring is just like all-time greatness on your squad.
And I said this earlier, like in the first podcast, but it goes back to it, is that in the last like 40 years, there have been 3 championships or like 3 finals that don't include Magic, Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, Hakeem Olajuwon, Kobe, Duncan. LeBron, and Steph. There's been like 3 finals where none of those players are involved, and 2 of them are in the last like 5 years.
And that was
Like
Kawhi. No, because Kawhi played against the injured Warriors.
it was
Who was it?
the Mavs Heat back in 06, this last season, and then like in the 80s or like the
Okay.
90s, like it was like
Yeah, that
Sonics
Mavs
and,
Heat fucking Dwayne Wade had a
Pistons.
bone to pick with somebody, bro. He wasn't losing that year. That motherfucker was making 40 look easy.
Yeah, but it just goes to show if 8 people are involved in 40 finals, that you need like all of those guys are top 10 all time basically. Like,
Yeah.
and if you don't have a top 10 all time player, you're almost not winning a title, or like top 15 all time because like Steph and KD basically. But with that said, if you could form a duo of any 2 NBA players to play together for the next 4 years, who would you choose?
Matt, do you have one off the top of your head? Because I don't have one off the top of my head yet.
Luca and Kevin Durant.
I was gonna say Luca. I was gonna say Luca and KD. Or okay, I'll do a spicy one with like really young players. Ja Morant and Devin Booker, or Luca and Devin Booker. I think that would be fucking sick. I think that would be the coolest fucking dynasty you've ever seen. Or honestly, I'll get even spicier. LaMelo and Booker. I think that'd be fucking lit. You
I
have
think
2
they'd be
dudes.
close to the same type of thing, though.
What do you mean? Melo's pretty damn close to a true point guard in today's NBA. I think he's really close to
I
a
think
true
he's
point.
closer to like a Trey Young style. Like he can do it all. I think he's really well rounded, but I think Booker's like such a dialed in like shooter scorer when you have like 2 of the. I feel like it's easiest to do big and small is my thing.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it'd be cool. I think it'd be something fun. Like, if I wanted like pure dominance, like win me a title every fucking year, I would probably do Luka KD,
Yeah,
or
well,
like
I
a
mean,
Trey Young KD, because it would be just mimicking Steph and KD. But or just fuck it, Steph and KD again for 4 years. Let him fuck the NBA up all over again.
well, I mean, and that's why what I would love to see, because I think their play styles complement each other, are Luka and Giannis. Like Luka running the point guard and having a guy like Giannis on his team, it would quite literally be unstoppable. Like it would be on a duo level that is Kevin Durant and Steph Curry, or like Kobe
Luka
and Jordan.
Giannis? I don't think
Yeah.
it would be
The one-
Steph and KD level.
The one issue I feel like you'd
Like,
run
going
into them
forward,
is
though?
is not enough shooting because that's
Mhm.
so like
But I mean,
needed
like
today.
you could get a lot of cheap shooters around them. I feel like you'd be able to
Then
get
you're
guys.
banking on then you'll have like the kind of cop out sometimes LeBron uses is the guys weren't performing around
I thi-
him enough like
yeah.
in the shooting
I
department.
think a better duo with Greek out of the young points would be Trey. I think Trey would pair very well with Greek. I think maybe even Ja Morant could pair very well with Greek. I actually think Luka and Greek would conflict each other, not as much complement each other. Even LaMelo and Greek, I think, would complement each other better. Because I
But you just
think
wanted like a pure point guard to run it with Greek. But I feel
I
like
agree with that.
having Greek play more off ball, letting Luka dominate on ball. Greek
Yeah, but-
dominates the paint, and
I
Greek
think
dominates
Luka
on
can
defense.
develop a shot though much better, which could balance it
And-
out. So I could see that for sure.
I could see it. I'd
And it's
rather
the fact that
those
they're both,
three.
like,
But my
22,
thing is,
23.
where's
Yeah.
Luka? Where's Luka the most comfortable? Backing someone down in the Dirk area, right inside the 3-point line, lining up that post shot where the paint's open, and then he has a shooter open where the defense doesn't know where he can go. And I don't think Greek could fill that void for him. Whereas if you have Trae Young, LaMelo, or Ja Morant, you have to get up on them. And if they're up on them, Greek's going behind them. Whereas Luka doesn't want as much to be behind the 3-point line. He can shoot it, and he will.
Luka shoots a lot of threes. Like
Yeah,
He
does
does.
that left side wing.
Yeah.
That step
Yeah.
back he does.
He-
is his
he
sweet
does.
spot.
And I think Luka's good enough to make it work, but I'm just saying I think those other three would complement him better than Luka would if you were to pair Greek with one of those four. I think
I just
Luka would be the last one I would choose, even though I think
I just
Luka's
don't
the
think
better one of all
anybody,
of them.
pretty much anybody in a 7-game series can beat those two, like in 7 games. But that said, moving on to my next guys would be our LeBron and Steph. Like we've seen them go at each other for years, but I
4
think
years
LeBron-
though, LeBron's going to be dead in 2.
Well, just before their career is over. Like I just want to see them play together. Like I don't care who they play. I don't care if LeBron goes to Golden State. I would love to see him play with Steph. Like we saw it in the All-Star game. Like the fact that LeBron would just be able to have the ball, Steph Curry plays off ball and he just kicks it out to him. Fucking 20
That's why I
times a
think
game.
Russ and him are going to be
Like-
really, really cool to watch. That's why I really like getting Russ on the Lakers, is because I really think Russ's drive and dish is going to work so well with LeBron and AD, because AD doesn't have to be in the paint, the area he's scared of most, because Russ will go in there and kick it out to his bitch ass. Like, I'm super excited for that. I think Steph and LeBron would be fun to watch. I think
I just
they'd
wanna
be
see it
even
because
more
I think that's
fun.
like a dream everyone's been wanting. Like even
Yeah.
when they first did it in the All-Star game, everyone was like, "Wow! Like, could you imagine this?"
Yeah.
Imagine that.
night.
Imagine that 4 years ago.
It would,
Steph-
I
like,
even still think the next 2-3. it'd
No,
be
yeah, of
insane.
course, yeah. But I'm saying, imagine like LeBron, like peak athleticism, like Heat LeBron, Cavs LeBron, and then you have fucking Steph.
it'd be
It'd be
it would be
unfair.
ridiculous. Like I just want to see it because it's like who doesn't want to see people on a team? Like I get that you want the
Oh.
competition of like Jordan and whoever, like Magic and Bird, but at the same time it's like these guys are about, like, by the time their contracts are up, they're 38. Like
Okay, here's
they're
a good
not in the
question.
prime anymore. Just play on the same fucking team. Let's see.
Who
how
do
it
you
goes.
think would be a better team up if instead of Kevin Durant went, LeBron went to Golden State,
No.
or the Kevin Durant Golden State team? What team would beat
I-
each other in a 7-game series? What do you think?
I'll let Matt answer first because I think
I-
we have the same answer.
I mean, I think KD just their team is shooting. Like
Yeah.
he's literally a 7-foot walking sniper that does
Yeah.
anything. So I
Easy
think
money sniper.
Yeah, I think LeBron and Steph on their own team is a better fit with other guys versus what they already had there.
Okay.
I feel like was a
Yeah.
plug and play for like KD, and that's
Yeah.
why they literally immediately won. And it was just
Yeah.
like, wow, this. I mean,
Just pure dominant. Like everybody
yeah,
knew
it's
it was
insane.
over as soon as he signed.
yeah,
Like
it's-
we would say the same thing if LeBron signed with them,
Yeah.
but that's just because it was the two best players in the league.
Okay. I
but
just was
yeah.
wondering because we were talking about, that
Just
dream
dream
of them
team-ups,
teaming
yeah.
up. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, well, would it be better? But I agree with you guys. I think
We-
Katie's fucking disgusting. I think, honestly,
here's another thing though.
okay.
Who do you think does better in that 4-year period if you trade Steph and Kyrie straight up?
Kyrie, KD in that Warriors team?
Yeah, like Kyrie, KD Warriors. So I guess like 3 years, 2 years, or Steph and LeBron on the Cavs with the
with
villains
love.
that they basically had. Yeah,
Wait.
think
So
that
hold
team,
on.
the
I'm
Cavs.
confused. So you're saying you're swapping just
So
Steph
it'd be
and
Kyrie, Clay, and Draymond versus
And
Steph,
Steph,
LeBron,
LeBron.
and Love.
after the first year, yeah.
I
Yeah.
I
After
think
the
the
first year.
Warriors team would probably still be better because I still think they could literally torture you with shooting. And I think Kyrie's a better. I think Kyrie in his prime was a better point guard than Steph, but that might be a hot take. I think Kyrie's. If he
'Cause,
wasn't
I mean, that's
mentally
been the-
insane, I think Kyrie's probably the best point guard in the league. I think he's better than Steph.
I mean, and that's the debate I've been seeing of like the Kyrie or Steph, like, and how close it is and everything. And that's why I ask, because I think it's close, and I think that Warriors team is just so fucking good that
I mean,
even
bro,
if Kyrie's a little bit below him, that there's still like the gap between the Cavs and the Warriors was huge once Kevin Durant went there.
yeah, like you
That,
saw
like-
it, dude, when they played each other. Like, bro, Steph would hit a three, Kyrie would come back down, break his fucking ankles, put him on the ground, and then shoot a three and make it two. Like
I
Kyrie,
just think in that series, it was the fact that he had LeBron and Love let him do so much more versus
Mhm.
like say when the Warriors first won, when it was Harrison Barnes, Steph,
Mm,
Yeah.
Iggy, and them versus when you put the only situation you can compare Kyrie to that to is when he went to Boston with Tatum and them, and that was a train wreck. Is the one reason why I still think I'd rather have
The- the
Steph
still-
than Kyrie.
yeah, and
Yeah,
that's
like
When
one
they're
Steph
on
I
their
want.
own and they need to be the big guys like
That
the whole season, Steph's
yeah,
done.
and I know it's a big thing, but that's why I said I think if Kyrie wasn't mentally insane, I
That's
think
very
Kyrie
true.
would
He
be
does
yeah.
think the Earth
Yeah.
is indeed flat.
I think honest to God, if Kyrie
I mean, it is, but
had a normal mental
True. I
state,
can't. I'm gonna walk off the edge soon.
like I think if Kyrie had a normal mental state, that's why I was saying that. I think he
Yeah.
would be the best point guard in the league, and people would still talk about Steph, but it'd mainly be about Kyrie. Like I think if Kyrie had that Kobe, LeBron, Steph kind of thing where you're just a normal, you're wired normally, I think he would by far and large, like the amount of thing he could just do more than Steph. And that was my thing. Like Steph shoots lights out, but so did Kyrie. And Kyrie could do everything though. Kyrie could go, he could drive past you. Steph's handles are crazy. Kyrie's are just as good, if not better. Like the one thing Steph may be able to do better is pull up and shoot a little bit better, but I still wouldn't be like, if I had Kyrie doing that on my team, I'd be like, you're not Steph, don't try it. Like, if Kyrie walked up, crossed someone, pulled up from coach's box, I'd be like, that shit's in every
I mean,
time.
Kyrie is one of my favorite players. Like, I tweeted this recently, but I'm like, sometimes I hate on Kyrie because he's a nutcase.
Yeah.
But then I watch him play for one game, and
Bro,
I'm
it's
like,
art.
this dude is the most entertaining player in the league.
Yeah,
and
it's literally
not
art.
close.
Like-
he's so fun.
Dude, Caprice, I was showing her highlights, like stuff like that, because I was watching highlights like Steph Curry, and she's like, wow, he's really good. I showed her highlights of Kyrie, and she was like, holy shit, like that dude is insane. She's like,
Yeah.
is this like the best basketball player? And I was
I mean,
like,
and people say he's one of the most skilled all time. Like him and Kobe.
I agree.
Like,
I would-
They
yes.
say him and Kobe are the two most skilled players ever.
yes, I would completely agree. If you're talking basketball skill, you're not talking
Yeah.
about your brain. I
Like,
think
footwork,
Kyrie,
like shooting touch, like all that kind of thing.
I would argue against anyone that Kyrie is the most talented basketball player we've ever seen.
I think Kyrie's a better scorer in any different. I mean, Steph can drive too, but I think Kyrie to create, like Steph's good at creating outside because he has so much range. But I
Yeah,
think
and that's why his
Kyrie-
inside
yeah.
shooting is better because of how much of a threat he is outside.
Exactly. So I think Kyrie though can just do a little bit more elsewhere, which like in that aspect of like technical skill, I'd agree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I think especially when you're talking about players like Steph and Kyrie, like they're so close. Like you were saying, Matt, those little things. Like I think he could do a
Yeah.
little bit more, which is why he's better. Like I think that's what it kind of comes down to in like these, because it's not like you're gonna get a player where you're like, oh yeah, he's just fucking 20 times better than him. Like, you know, Jordan and Kobe, it's like they're really close. What do you think? Who does what a little bit better? That's who's better. You know, it's not like oh yeah, this dude. It's not like I'm comparing Steph and fucking Ben Simmons. Like, you
Seeing
know,
them
like,
breaking people's ankles though, those highlights don't get old.
Yeah, dude.
No,
Kyrie.
never.
Yeah,
They
both
never,
of them
like,
have insane.
in
And I
100
just
years from now, we're gonna be watching Kyrie highlights, and like Kyrie might be the kind of player that in 100 years from now, people are gonna be like, this dude's the greatest. Like, he might not have ever put up the best numbers, but like he was the greatest player ever by the time he retired, kind of thing. Like,
I agree.
Like based off highlights.
I think I think if anyone watched, like, Caprice doesn't watch a lick of basketball, and she was literally
Yeah.
asking if Kyrie was Michael Jordan. That's why people were freaking out. She was like, "Is this
Yeah.
Michael Jordan? Like, is that why people freak out? Because he's really fucking good." I was like, "No, that's Kyrie."
Yeah,
Kyrie
like, you're
Irving.
gonna be able to show like Jordan highlights and Kyrie highlights to somebody in 30 years, and they're gonna be like, Kyrie's better than Jordan.
Yeah.
Like, just based off of the highlights that you have.
And I think KD's also up there too. Like, talent, like, dude, having a dude
He-
that long, that big, that can cross your shit,
I think
step
he's
back
arguably like the most talented player the NBA has ever seen.
Yeah, I'd agree. Like, it used to be LeBron, and then KD came and
Like, they're
really
just
showed his
different
shit.
styles, but like KD, you can't guard him. Like, I don't care
No,
what like
you can't.
It doesn't matter who you
Put
put on him.
Kawhi on, put whoever the fuck you want. Put best defender ever. I don't care who people say is the best defender ever.
He's dropping
Put
30 on him.
Yeah,
Like,
he's not. It doesn't matter.
If the dude scores 25 or less, you're like, thank God we slowed him
Yeah.
down. Which is like,
you're like, thank
insane.
God he scored 27 and shot 55%. You're like,
Like,
you're
bro,
you didn't
you
do anything.
Mitchell and I were talking about this on the last podcast, Matt. I was like, bro, you see the Bucks who had this insane defense, right? And KD's the only threat, and the dude's still dropping fucking 50 on the
if you think
defensive
about
player
it,
of the year. Like,
one of their guys, if Joe Harris hit one random layup,
Yeah.
bucket, or anything,
If he
they
didn't go
win.
like 1 of 8.
Yeah, they win the game. Well, this dude is like,
I think that
people
was
will be like, oh, he airballed last year. That man put everything he had on that court to win that game, and if his foot was
if he was a
this
size
much smaller,
14
bro,
instead of a size 15,
Yeah.
they would have won, which is
Like-
insane.
Like, yeah, bro. That was one of the most entertaining things. So I was like, no way.
I
No
don't even
way
think
he's
I
doing it
watched,
again.
Like, most of the game, and then I turned it on for the last like 3 minutes of the fourth, and I caught like the fucking best part
Bro,
of the game. And I
yeah,
was
we
like,
were
holy
watching it in
shit.
Discord. We're like, oh shit, they're gonna lose. Katie pulls up from half. Then overtime comes, like, fuck, they're gonna lose. Then Katie does it again. We're like, holy shit. Then second overtime, oh, they're gonna lose. Then Katie does it again. We're like, dude, this
Yeah.
guy, just give him the game. Just be like, okay, sorry, Bucks, he's done enough. He deserves this game.
I think
And-
it's
and
just
so-
setting it up for the Lakers showdown this season.
Oh,
And
dude,
so-
I hope they're both
I think
healthy and
the
we
Nets
see him in the
have a
finals.
better and easier route.
I
Much
want
easier
100%.
I want to see Russ versus Katie in the finals. You know, Russ is
gonna
gonna
start
come in
fighting.
like a
Yeah, he's gonna
fucking
kill that
dog,
man.
bro.
He's
He-
gonna go for the.
They're gonna go
throat.
for a rebound, and Russ is gonna fucking take his ass
Dude,
out.
he's seen Ron Artest videos. He's
Bro,
gonna throw
could
that
you-
swinging elbow.
Could you imagine though, like, game, like, how much hype would be if, like, Russ is on a fast
I mean,
break, Katie
Russ-
goes up, and Russ posters him? The amount of screaming
Just
Katie
think
would
about
get in his
that.
face.
Think about the storylines: LeBron versus Kyrie,
Yeah,
Kevin Durant versus Westbrook. Like, those
bench
two
player
alone-
Anthony Davis versus bench player James Harden. Perfect
Like,
sixth men in the
Who has
NBA.
the uglier beard?
Yeah.
Like,
Who
um,
looks uglier, clean shaven?
But like, talking about KD, where like, I think this is almost the perfect way to describe him sometimes. But what do you think is better, a loud 27 versus a quiet 40? It was asked by like Evan Fournier, I think, a couple weeks ago on Twitter, and he was like, the loud 27 is like step backs, dunks, whereas a quiet 40 is like layups and free throws. And to like give more perspective to it, like, because I've always thought like LeBron is kind of a quiet player, like you don't notice. And then all of a sudden you look up in the third quarter and he has a triple-double and 20 points.
I mean, I think maybe now, but I think
Well,
before
just-
LeBron was the loudest motherfucker in the state. That dude would
Well,
fucking soar.
Well, but like you wouldn't notice the fact that somehow he would be on a 15-0 run by himself. Like, because it just
Yeah,
comes
I
in the
get that.
flow of the game.
Like, what do I think is
Or-
better? What do you mean? To watch? Because
Like,
if it's my
no,
team,
I-
obviously I
like-
want 40 points.
Well, no, I think he's like what he's saying is like, I think it's the loud 27 because those big plays swing momentum and like other players like get really hyped kind of versus like how in the bubble sometimes in the finals you're like, wow, LeBron's having an off night and you look at the stats 20, 10, and 7 and you're like, Wait, what?
Yeah,
Like,
I would agree. I'd probably say perfect example is I don't think James Harden's all that great. He's probably one of the quietest players ever because all the dude does is shoot free throws, and I think he's extremely overrated because of it. So
Well, and-
that's obviously my preference is allowed 27 because I think James Harden is third tier player. I don't, and honestly, it hurt me to put him there because I really don't think he's that good.
Well, and see, for me, like the examples, because like I understand how some people think LeBron's like a loud player, but I think he has loud moments, but overall his scoring I feel like is kind of quiet because he's a pass first player.
Yeah.
Like we all know that about him, so we don't look at his scoring as much. Whereas like for somebody like Kobe and Jordan, we kind of notice every single time they score a point. And so like for me it's oh shit, like they take the breath out of the building, they do whatever, and you look up and they have like 27 versus LeBron who is getting his team involved, like you notice him getting his team involved more, but then you look up and you find out he has like 30. Like once LeBron gets into the territory of like 40s, you know he has 40. But like the Kevin Durant is almost a better example of like a quiet 40. Like that dude he hits mid-range shots, he hits a couple threes.
Yeah, and I think Russ
is at 40 points.
I think Russ would be the perfect example of a loud player. You know that motherfucker's going off because he's in your face about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
he's screaming down your fucking throat. And which I think I love that energy. I've always loved that energy. I think a player, you hit a big dunk, a big poster, scream in that fucker's face. Just demoralize him more than you already did. Like, I think it's so raw when you see someone get postered and then that player hit the flex and like just scream right in front of them. Cause like, it's like, I already got embarrassed and now he's screaming in my face and I can't do anything about it.
I mean, it's the whole troll of what Trae Young was doing to the Knicks, basically. Like, trolling the entire city of New York.
Yeah. I'm just hoping to see that a recreation of the Wade to Braun photo, but with Russ this time.
Oh, that'd be so raw, dude.
I want it to be the other way around.
Yeah,
like,
me too. That, or with AD
that would be
in the
lit.
same photo.
Like, because LeBron would be like, and he would be like, I'm acknowledging D Wade, like, what's up? And then, like, it'd be after the game, he's like, yeah, I knew we had a chance on the break. I was running in front of Russ. He was coming right behind me, and I was like, this can be our D Wade to LeBron moment, you know? Like,
and Anthony Davis is the Chris Bosh.
Yeah, like coming out of the background, he's like, "What's up?"
Hey, Bosh was clutch though. He got that rebound and kicked it to Ray.
It's still 2
Allen, back out to Ray, bang!
Dude, I love that bang. That shit's so
those poor
lit.
people that left that stadium early.
Oh my god, imagine.
Who leaves the finals games early?
I wouldn't leave a finals game if it was a 40-point blowout. Like,
exactly.
Yeah, bro. If I'm paying $1,000 to go to a game,
money I would have to confidently walk out of a finals game, like, I mean, I don't give a fuck.
Spending
especially
that much
when it's game 6. So if you don't, if they don't come back, like, at least stay for the celebration.
Bro, Matt and I went
even
to
if it's
like
the other
some
team.
random Clippers game, and it was them versus the Magic. But Matt's mom got us like really sick seats, so everyone's like leaving because they're like kicking the shit out of the Magic. I'm literally sitting there screaming for the Magic. I'm like, let's go. Every time they made a bucket, I was like, let's go. Like, trying to get a comeback. Didn't happen.
Make it a game.
But yeah, I was like, I ain't leaving. I'll still find some sort of enjoyment out of this. This is dope. Unless you have Staples Center hot dogs, you're good.
That's facts.
So let's end it on this last topic.
This one's getting long.
Yeah, I want to rank some NBA cities. And
LA,
you guys...
LA.
So the Clippers, that's your team?
Yes.
Hey, he was screaming Clipper Nation all last season for a while.
Oh, dude. Love it. I mean, like, where I'd want if I was an NBA player or like in general?
My list is kind of a combination of both what I believe would be the best for an NBA player, but then also a little bit of my personal preference sprinkled in.
Well, if mine's a personal preference, I'd probably do LA, Miami, Boston, Chicago, and I guess New York, even though I wouldn't really want to go to New York, man. I feel like New York sucks. Everyone I know that has gone there Even Trey, he went out there
You're
for
gonna
just
you're
a
gonna
trip.
piss off our Jocelyn's friend with all
Well,
your New York
Jocelyn,
takes.
your city fucking blows from what I've heard. Even Jocelyn said New York isn't that great. Like, nah. And then Matt went to
Basketball
Chicago.
mecca.
Matt went to Chicago and was like, this city is fucking lit. So that would be a city I'd be down. Miami's
See,
actually
I've
no,
been to
fuck Miami. I hate Florida.
I've been to Cleveland and it was in peak fucking LeBron years, and that city was still fucking miserable.
Yeah.
There's no shot in the world I would ever want to play there.
I would say
I'd pull a
LA.
Kobe and be like, "Yo, trade my ass. I'm not fucking playing for you."
LA, like if I was a player, I'd be like LA, Chicago, Boston would be dope. Toronto, I heard, is pretty dope.
Yeah.
I really wouldn't want to go to New York, man. I feel like New York sucks.
What about you, Matt?
I put mine somewhat on like basketball, but also like fans as well, kind of. So
Yeah.
I had LA one, I had New York, because I mean, they will love and hate you, but their high I feel like is so much higher than other like places
And
high.
you got to think like endorsements too. You know, like the kind of
Yeah.
money you can make outside of the court.
Yeah, but I'd be the GOAT, so I'll get an endorsement wherever the hell I go.
For 3, might surprise you guys, but I put Oklahoma City because that place literally.
It's like a college town.
It's never not sold out there.
Yep.
That place is always, if they will love you till.
But you're not
picking
picking
Kevin Durant.
You're not picking where you'd want to go, right? Like this isn't you.
No, I'm just putting it as like. I mean, even.
I don't know if I'd want to.
No, so say they
want to live there,
City,
but like playing
how they,
there.
How they take care of like that team and that city, I feel like is so close.
Yeah,
it's insane.
It's one of the best arenas in the league. Like,
oh no, that's not a lie.
Yeah.
Then I put Boston, just because it's Boston, Miami, Philly. I feel like Philly is like a poor man's New York, honestly.
Yeah.
Okay, you're gonna get fucking killed after this podcast. I don't agree with that.
Hey, the Eagles suck too. They're gonna win 5 games this season at most. Good luck.
I love the city of Philadelphia.
I enjoyed my time in Philly, but it'd be rough if you're not an amazing player. Like
if you're like Ben Simmons.
Yeah, pretty much. Like if you're not, like if they think you're not playing up to your potential, you're gonna hear it.
Yeah. Then Chicago, Brooklyn, Toronto.
I'm surprised Chicago wouldn't be higher up on your list because when you got back from Chicago, you're like, bro, this is
really
literally
cool
my
place,
favorite city.
It sucks when you have the GOAT as your as your player. You're always going to be compared to Michael Jordan.
I'd be like, well,
never
stop
gonna
comparing
hit that
me.
bar.
I'd say
Just
stop
like
comparing me.
LA,
I'm better.
I mean, it'll be different once LeBron's gone because LeBron and Kobe and Shaq
LA's almost easier though because they you always have a history of winning.
Yeah.
Like where it's like they don't focus on an individual.
You know what I think is funny?
We just want to win. Whereas for the Bulls, it's like we want to win, but also you're not Jordan. Like we've done enough winning because we have Michael Jordan, and it's like.
You know what I think is funny is none of us put Golden State, even though it's in Cali. Like none of us put Golden State.
Yeah, well, so I'll read out mine real quick. And LA would be my first. I hate the city of LA, but if I'm a player, like
I do what Philip Rivers did. Live in San Diego and chopper the fuck in.
Well, he had a Sprinter van.
Okay,
like I live in like outside like Malibu, Calabasas, some shit like that. But New York, Brooklyn, mostly
would not
for the
want to
money.
live in Brooklyn.
I wouldn't live in. I'd live outside the city, but
motherfucker, Brooklyn. Oh, I wouldn't be in that city at all.
But to play, like again, like endorsement money, like the money I'm gonna get is gonna be more than anywhere else. My next up though would be like Miami, because for me, fucking being in Miami, being around like Puerto Rican women, Latino women, I'd be fucking living my best life.
He's doing cocaine before games.
Yeah, and there's no state income tax.
True.
Phoenix would be fucking lit because
just move out to Riverside, bro. It's 106 today if you want that. It's cheaper than Phoenix as well.
Cause see, Phoenix, it gets hot as fuck during the summer, but you're not gonna live there during the summer. It's right next to ASU Tempe, so when I'm at the max, like at my age right now, I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna think about leaving Phoenix probably, but like I'd get in there my rookie year to like the end of my second contract, and I'd be like, there's so many fucking hot girls,
Guys.
and it's so affordable that I would love to live there. Toronto, I've heard like nightlife is dope. Chicago, for obvious reasons. Dallas, I think would be dope. OKC for the same reason Matt said, and then
Dallas and Houston would be dope when a tornado comes through and wipes your shit out. Be sick.
that's more like Oklahoma City though. Like it's more north.
Sick.
But then just not like Boston. Like as much as I like Boston, like I enjoyed Boston, but if I'm like an NBA athlete and I'm like, black, fucking, I don't want to be in Boston or Utah where they're racist as hell.
They're not racist to their players, just the other ones.
What are you talking about? There was a lady that called Marcus Smart hard R when he was caught
exactly.
outside the stadium.
She didn't call it Donovan Mitchell one.
But I'm talking about that's in Boston. They do that in Utah to players all the time too.
I'm more surprised you put Phoenix. I thought my OKC one was a little bit weird, but Phoenix, man.
I choose Phoenix over OKC for me.
I spent 3 months. I spent like a semester at ASU too, so like I have a little bit.
I guess it's different because you guys are also looking like personal preference.
That's
yes.
That's
what I said. Like there's the preference. I have a little bit of the personal preference sprinkled in.
I'd be down as fuck to get a 1-day contract and play in OKC. You offer me an actual contract, I'm looking everywhere else.
I mean, I'd want to. If there's a 1 or a 2 in front of those 2 zeros,
if I'm getting the same contract,
I'll be comfy in there.
If I get the same contract as anywhere else, even with
then I'd stay in California 100%. I wouldn't leave.
Well, but that's why I also have like Miami and the Texas teams, is because there's no state income tax.
Yeah, he is. Mitchell's definitely gonna die soon.
Nah, it's the state. It's avoiding the state income tax, and then again, once hurricane season hits, you leave.
I hate that. Okay, why do people say, bro? These dudes are making $100 million a year.
Do you think about that? Like
that's $30 million that you're losing.
Yes, but think about it. $100 million, right? Let's say they take 25%. That's still 75. I'm still living comfy as fuck with 75.
Yeah, but think about how they're living in California. Then they got like a $10-15 million mansion, and then you got all this other stuff.
I live in an RV.
You're gonna be fucking Chris Pratt in the NBA.
Top athletes in the world. They ain't doing that,
bro. That'll be fine.
That's why they have their son. I guess that makes sense. If you don't play, you always have a house in Cali though.
Yeah, I mean, especially with like property value going up and everything, I'd be like, I'm definitely owning property here, and for me personally, I'd want to be West Coast more than East, because East Coast gets so fucking cold. Like as cool as like a Philadelphia or Boston or like even Toronto is, like you're playing during the winter months, so it's cold as shit. And it's like I'd rather be. That's another reason I have Phoenix. So I'm like, it's gonna be fucking nice the entire time I'm there. Like LA, like I don't really want to live in the desert, but
yeah, it does. Like, it's fucking bitingly cold.
It's like 50, 60, whereas in those places, like in a fucking Detroit, that shit gets like below 0.
Before COVID, the winter before COVID, it got down at night out here to like fucking 30 degrees one night. I went outside, went to take a piss.
-30.
I went to take a piss.
I can't do that. I can't do cold like that.
I went to take a pee outside in the desert, and all that came out was an icicle. It literally just froze as it was coming out. But no, I went to really cold Montana. It's not that bad. It's like heat. It's like the opposite version of heat. Like, like people will say like, oh, if it's over 100, like it's just fucking hot. Like at 100, it's hot as fuck. At 105, it's hot as fuck. You're not gonna feel a huge difference. It's just hot as fuck. It's same out there. Like,
but there's snow, and you have to deal with snow. And snow.
But like when it was 0 out there, and then the next day we went out, it was -20. I was like, it's just cold as fuck. Like I didn't notice the difference.
You dress appropriately, but like I don't want to have to drive around I don't want to have to drive around a city with snow. Like,
yeah, black ice is a joke.
Yeah, like granted, I would just fucking either hire a driver, or if you live in the city, you just take the fucking train.
What, in Portland? Are you guys talking about Portland?
No, like East Coast.
No, cold areas.
Yeah.
Portland.
Like,
Portland's weird, but cool.
Portland
I
would be a
mean,
fun city too, just because of
They're so in
like the
tune with their
crowd.
team too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought the reason I could be wrong. I'm not a scientist. I thought the reason that black ice was more prevalent in Oregon and Washington was because they're like on the coast, and because even when it gets cold, it's still warm enough where it's freezing as ice and not as snow. Whereas like Boston and Philly, I heard they didn't have as much black ice
But they're, like,
because
also
the
on the
snow
coast.
freezes as snow. Because I know that's how it was in Montana. We didn't hit like any black ice at all, but there was just a lot of snow. But I could
I
be
don't know.
wrong yet. I'm not a fucking
I'm not the person to talk
geographer,
about fucking black
Mete-
ice with. because
meteorologist or anything. But
Yeah.
I
It fucking snowed in Austin last year, and there was the winter freeze. And
Oh, yeah.
It shut the whole city down because there weren't like. Granted, like a city like Boston is way more prepared for that, but
Yeah.
it's just like. I
Matt,
don't wanna
imagine being
be
this
in a-
loser in Texas while we're in California. It's like 60 degrees out here.
Yeah.
He's like fucking freezing his ass off. His ceiling's leaking icicles.
No, I was lucky because a lot of
Dang, it
people
was
were
70 today.
without power. They were without power. They were without water. I was only without power for 6 hours, but I was without water for like 2 days.
I
And that
saw
was,
a
like-
lot of people in like Frisco and Dallas were out of power like fucking 2 weeks.
Yeah,
like, one of the dudes-
it's literally one of the reasons I left. Was
I saw these COD
like, fuck
pros. They
this.
went to each other's house. He's like, "You smell like shit." He's like, "I haven't had water or power for fucking days. Like, I can't do anything." I was
feel.
like,
Well,
"That's nasty."
let's end this podcast, get out of here, take a little break, and then we'll come back for free flow. Talk about whatever the fuck we want. And I mean there'll be at least 2 dick
Oh
conversations.
yeah, Matt, you
over
can
there,
hear
so-
the if any of you haven't watched Free Flow and you're just for basketball. Last week in Free Flow, Mitchell let us know that if he were to have a threesome, he would go jerk off in the bathroom because he'd get overwhelmed. So that's a good note to end on. If you want, come watch Free Flow.
I mean that clip was blowing up. People love that clip. So
Well, I
that
did
and
too.
the
I thought
gay
it was
thing.
hilarious that you said, "Okay, Mitchell, what'd you do in threesome?" I'd go jerk off in the bathroom because I'd be overwhelmed.
All right, well, let's get out of here. We don't need to talk more about that on the basketball podcast. Let's get the fuck out of here, grab some drinks, and move on with it.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks for
All right.
stopping by, everybody. Make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, give us a topic for next week, and let us know if you liked Matt, because Matt's someone we'd want to have back on the podcast. So
Oh yeah, dude.
make sure to
Thanks for
follow
having me,
Twitter.
boys.
Of course, we'll have you at least one more time. At
Yeah.
least.
Make sure to
No.
follow Mitchell and I's Twitters above our heads, and then Matt's Instagram above his head. You can see him shirtless.
Ooh.
So yeah, there you go.
But-
It's like about to put it on private.
All right.
All right.
Peace out, everybody.
Laters.